ISIS chief Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is believed to have been targeted in Syria's northwestern Idlib province. Officials say the raid was ordered by US President Donald Trump, but the officials were unable to say whether the operation against Baghdadi was successful. White House spokesman Hogan Gidley said Trump will make a major statement today. The president gave an indication early on Saturday, tweeting without explanation, "Something very big has just happened." Fresh clashes have erupted between Turkey-led forces in Damascus-backed SDF troops in Syria's northeastern Ras al-Ain region. Turkey's defense ministry says a Turkish soldier has been killed while 5 others wounded in the fighting. In a statement, the ministry said its forces responded to mortar and sniper attacks by the YPG fighters. War monitors have reported a higher death toll, saying 9 pro-Turkey troops and 6 SDF fighters were killed in the battle. Turkey and Kurdish forces agreed to a US-brokered ceasefire on October 17th. Pakistanis and Kashmiris around the world are observing Black Day to mark India's illegal occupation that started on this day in 1947. Indian troops have killed around 100,000 Kashmiris, denying them freedom in accordance with the UN resolutions. Protest rallies, demonstrations and conferences are being held across the world to express solidarity with people of occupied Kashmir. The 72-year struggle for Kashmiris for their UN-recognized right of self-determination is being highlighted. Kashmiri leader Syed Ali Gilani has called for a march and a sit-in in occupied Valley's capital, Srinagar. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says India has turned the valley into the world's largest prison. He has asked the world to force New Delhi to end its illegal annexation of the territory. The valley is under India's curfew and a total communications blackout since August 5th. In Iraq, 15 more protesters have been killed in clashes with security forces as thousands took part in nationwide anti-government protests. Police say the death toll from violent protests over the last 3 days has risen to 67. Thousands of demonstrators have taken to the streets in nationwide anti-government protests. To contain escalating violence, Prime Minister Adil Abdul Mahdi ordered members of the country's elite counter-terrorism service to quell protests. The troops fired tear gas and arrested dozens of protesters in neighborhoods surrounding Baghdad's central Tahrir Square. The overall death toll from violent protests have reached 224 over the past month. Meanwhile, the largest parliamentary bloc has left the government and joined the opposition in support of the protesters. Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif has met Yemeni rebel group Houthi spokesperson Mohammad Abdul Salam in Tehran. Zarif said a range of issues, including efforts to end the conflict, was discussed during the meeting. The foreign minister said Yemen conflict can only be resolved through an all-inclusive political process. Zarif expressed grief over civilian deaths in the conflict and offered humanitarian aid. Abdul Salam praised Iran's support for the Yemeni people and briefed Zarif on the latest developments in the war-torn country. Six protesters have been wounded in clashes with the army in northern Lebanon. Protesters held demonstrations for the 10th straight day, demanding government resignation over alleged corruption. State media said clashes erupted between the protesters and soldiers near the northern port city of Tripoli. It said army intervened to open a blocked key road connecting Tripoli to the city of Akkar. The Lebanese Red Cross said 7 wounded have been transported to nearby hospitals. Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri has called for an investigation into the incident. North Korea says the United States must respect the end-of-year denuclearization deadline set by leader Kim Jong-un. Pyongyang's denuclearization negotiator Kim Jong-chol said Washington is exploiting Kim's close ties with the U.S. president. He accused Washington of crafty and vicious tactics, urging other countries to impose sanctions on Pyongyang. Kim Jong-chol served as Pyongyang's denuclearization negotiator until the collapse of the Hanoi summit in February this year. Earlier this month, negotiators from both sides issued conflicting statements after a brief round of talks. North Korea has threatened to end its denuclearization offer if the U.S. does not come up with a new method by the end of this year. Portugal's new government has been sworn in by President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa in the Ajuda National Palace. The ceremony was attended by Prime Minister Antonio Costa. Costa has formed a minority government after leading his party to victory in the national elections earlier this month. He said his government will prioritize climate change, demographic sustainability, digital transition and fighting inequalities in the next 4 years. Costa pledged to increase the minimum monthly wage to €750 by 2023. During the inauguration ceremony, Rebelo de Sousa warned that the new Costa government will face more challenges than the previous ones. In the UK, police have charged a driver with manslaughter in relation to the discovery of 39 corpses in a lorry in Essex. Maurice Robinson was arrested after the bodies of 31 men and 8 women were found in the trailer on Wednesday. He has also been charged with human trafficking and money laundering. Robinson will appear before a magistrate's court on Monday. 3 other people, including a woman, are also in detention on suspicion of murder. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has warned of further instability and ethnic violence in the country. In a statement, Ahmed called for an end to clashes between rival groups, asking them to observe tolerance and unity. The Prime Minister pledged to punish those responsible for the killing of 67 people during recent clashes. Tensions rose in the country after opposition activist Mohammed Jawar accused security forces of an assassination attempt. Voters in Argentina will head to the ballot box tomorrow in the presidential election. Opinion polls show centre-left candidate Alberto Fernandez holding a 20-point lead. Fernandez defeated President Mauricio Macri in an August primary, sparking a market crash. Former President Cristina Kirchner is running mate for Fernandez, who is convincing voters that he has a plan to reboot the economy. To avoid a runoff, the leading candidate needs to secure 45% of the votes. Voters will be choosing between 6 candidates. Several people have been injured during clashes between pro-independence protesters and police in central Barcelona. Riot police armed with batons and shields charged the violent protesters who threw stones and flares. Pro-independence pressure group CDR organized what it called direct action demonstrations. It followed a peaceful protest arranged by grassroots groups, ANC and Omnium Cultural earlier. The increasingly violent demonstrations over the past week have divided the Catalan pro-secessionist parties. Video games are generally thought of as entertainment for boys and young men. But one group of women coders wants to use the medium to teach girls to smash obstacles. What makes this story truly special is these were women from patriarchal Afghanistan.
These young women are part of an after-school training program called Code to Inspire in Herat. Here, they learn tech skills and create educational games and apps for Afghan girls.
My main goal as a game and app developer is to make as many educational games for the children of my country as possible, so that they learn and become educated faster through games.
The game Afghan Hero Girl has been their most successful venture yet. Its protagonist is a princess in a green hijab who leaps around a crumbling castle in a quest to defeat an evil wizard.
One of our most successful games is the Afghan Hero Girl game. We made this game in 6 months with 12 girls working on it. Through this game, we want to show that girls may have problems, but like the character in the game, they can jump or destroy the obstacles in their lives and eventually reach their goal.
Women's rights and girls' education have made significant gains in Afghanistan over the past 2 decades, but the country still has a long way to go. 1,000 schools were shut at the end of 2018 due to fighting between the Taliban and the government in Kabul. This deprived 500,000 children of their right to education, mostly girls.
In New York City, a pop-up art show blending flowers and fashion has blossomed at the Hudson Yards. Organizing team Fleur de Wills has cultivated flower events all over the world, but this is the first in New York. More in this report.
It's not every day you visit a city and wind up in a tropical garden, wearing vibrant and fragrant flowers including roses, carnations, hydrangeas and tulips. The many of the life-size mannequins were designed around in Hudson Complex of New York City.
We've got 14 beautiful mannequins here, all dressed in nothing but fresh flowers to stop people in their tracks, to engage, make people happy. Flowers make everybody happy.
Fleur de Wills co-founder Tina Barclay says it is a luxury brand, but it always works with local florists in each city to celebrate local floral talent.
The florists make their decisions around the flowers themselves, so they plan it, create it, design it, and then they procure the flowers to use in each of the exhibits.
The 10-day exhibition will run until November 3rd.
And we take a quick short break. We'll be right back. And now bringing you the latest from the world of business. The U.S. Treasury says the government's budget deficit has climbed to nearly $1 trillion in the 2019 fiscal year. The fiscal deficit jumped by 26% to over $900 billion, which is the highest since 2012. The U.S. Treasury says in the wake of Republican-led tax cuts, spending has outstripped tax receipts. Earlier this year, Congress passed a two-year budget deal backed by President Donald Trump. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.